Hi, my name is Ron Evans. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. We're coming to you from the great and weird city of Austin, Texas. We are a family of commercial real estate companies. We do commercial real estate development, construction, architecture through our firm Bluefin Designs, who's one of the sponsors of the video today, as well as a real estate brokerage company called Kudu Realty Partners. We also own a flooring company called Paramount Flooring. They are a sponsor of today's video as well. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope you like the content. It's intended to be educational. There's a lot of topic here. We could dive down into this and go for hours. We're going to kind of keep it high level. We'd like to intrigue your thinking, provide some valuable content for you. And then hopefully, if you want to talk to us, reach out through the contact information in the comments below. Certainly can reach out to us on our websites. And we'd like to have a conversation with you about your project. This is really intended to give you an idea and some starter points on the basics of everything from construction, development, design of your project, and making your dreams come true in real estate. So I have the pleasure today of being joined by my business partner in all of the companies I just listed. I'll introduce you to Charbel Dahdah. Hey, Charbel.
Awesome, Ron. Thanks for having me on the podcast. This
Absolutely.
is awesome. Yeah. Admittedly, this is my first one. So,
oh, dude, you're a pro. Yeah. Charbel's a natural on camera, probably more than me. So, Charbel is the CEO of our construction company, in addition to being partners with me in the other real estate companies that we own. We do develop and build across the great state of Texas. We're based in Austin, have offices in Dallas and San Antonio. And Charbel really runs the day-to-day of the construction company. So very quickly, kind of give your construction background. So you're stuck in an elevator and the elevator starts working again after about 45 seconds. What do you tell people?
That's a good question. Good points. Yeah. So as Ron mentioned, I'm the CEO of CADRE Construction, amongst partnership and all the other firms and entities that we have that all really help each other grow and provide a better quality for our end users. It is kind of awkward selling this or discussing with my business partner who knows all this, but I'm going to get around that here in a little bit. So if you could fast forward to minute number 5, I'll ease up a little bit. But yeah, so as far as what I do, I do run the general contracting division, providing services, for our end users, no matter what experience types they have. We have a lot of repeat business, a lot of repeat clients that do reuse us, for multiple practices, of course. And then we also run into a lot of the end users that have their initial first life savings all put into this project, and it's the most important thing in their life, which means it's the most important thing for our life. With that said, my background is in construction. Went to A&M, studied construction science, started off as biomed, had a huge passion for the medical world, found that I had an even more bigger passion in the construction world. So graduated with a construction science major as well as business. Moved on to some really large general contracting firms, all throughout kind of Texas, Central Texas, as well as California. Worked for a big multi-billion-dollar builder out of San Diego that really specialized in the big behemoth hospitals. $850 million hospital. That was one of many. And that figures back from 2006. So there's no telling how many billions that would have been equated to today. So my background is in large medical construction. Fast forward, Ron and I have been partners for about 10 years now. And with my construction experience and background, as well as Ron's, what we do is we build medical construction, industrial construction, mixed-use construction projects, kind of all throughout Texas, as Ron had mentioned. We love the approach of meeting somebody for the first time. They've never been through the construction process in their life. And we walk them throughout this whole process. And what they love about our outfit is we come with what we call a turnkey approach. We come from the experience level of bringing in an idea, whether it's just literally, they pick a spot on the map where they want to be. We're literally holding their hands throughout that whole process because of all of the experience we have, not only in construction, but pre and post construction. When you tie that in the real estate design, civil, you name it.
Right.
So a little bit about my background. I have built, as I mentioned, these large hospitals. I've done the iFly, the indoor skydiving facilities, which is a dynamite project, very technical based. I have a huge passion for industrial. We're growing our industrial sector as we speak. But yeah, so that's a little bit about me and where I come from. I do live in Central Texas here in Austin. Love it. Have been spending a lot of my time up in the Dallas area, Houston, a little bit of San Antonio. But HQ for us is out here in Austin.
All right. So you mentioned something that's a really good segue into this conversation. So today we're really going to kind of talk about general contracting at the highest level. All right. So just some bullet points. You mentioned kind of, and I think you were alluding to, we come in with this turnkey approach. We're developers as well. We won't go into the development process, and we've got some videos that talk about that. But as developers, we bring a very unique approach to the general contracting world. We own an architecture firm, right? So again, part of that turnkey process, we have a real estate company, so we can help with, you mentioned site selection, you're finding people that spot on the map. But let's narrow this down to just that GC conversation. A lot of people may even have a misunderstanding about what a general contractor is and what they do, right? So give me at the highest level, if somebody says, what is a general contractor? What does that even mean?
Yeah, good question. Those terms are probably used pretty loosely, throughout the 100+ years of general contracting or construction. It definitely has changed throughout the times. Yeah. What a GC probably was 100 years ago is maybe different than what a GC is today. And then we'll see what the next 100 years brings. But as far as the general definition of a general contractor, it's a professional contractor that assembles a team to build a specific asset or facility. Now, that could just be a general contractor you hire just to do your finish out of an existing building, or it could be a general contractor that works in tandem with the consultants to help orchestrate and build, ground up project. It's a very general question for a very lengthy answer. But essentially speaking, it's a professional that can orchestrate the construction through the conception all the way to completion phase.
Okay, so you say orchestrate. You just kind of I've got that vision of a symphony, right? Mm-hmm. And we're like the conductors, and so the pieces of that. Assuming we're not talking about some general contractors who self-perform, like there are general contractors out there who might also do framing, right?
Concrete. They may have an internal concrete company.
Exactly. But let's ignore that for now. Let's boil this down to simple terms. As a general contractor, if they're not self-performing, that is then that general contractor is hiring subs to do all the actual work, right?
Correct.
So we're not performing that work on site.
Correct.
Okay. So that's one thing that they don't do, right? They are not the developer. We won't go into what a developer means in this video, but they're really the ones who start with a set of plans. They hire the subcontractors. We hire the subcontractors, and then we orchestrate the schedule and the budget and make sure that thing gets built.
Absolutely.
Who pays the bills along the way?
Yeah, good question. The banks or the owners, depends on, most projects will have a lending institution involved. Yeah. So they'll have a bank. The application process is what we call the pay app process. Yeah. General contractor puts in a draw once a month. Typically either comes from the bank directly, or the bank funds the owner. Then the owner writes that check to the general contractor. But that's who we call the owner, quote unquote, the owner. That's the person that signs the contract between themselves and the general contractor, and they pay the general contractor direct.
How are they protected? So we go out and we say, all right, we're finished with month 1 of 11-month construction. So now give us, I know it doesn't work quite this simply, but give us 1/11 of that money, because we got to pay all of our subs, right? How is that process? What's the risk mitigation for that money being released to us?
Yeah, very good question. And I think this is probably where maybe some folks have had bad experiences with the term GC or general contractor. Every marketplace is different. Where the residential marketplace, may request, and to my knowledge, requires funds up front before a GC starts. So we don't do residential. We're not in that marketplace. That's not the way commercial construction works. The way commercial construction works, and that's what we do all day, every day, is from day 0 on the project to day 30, which we'll call that the first month. The general contractor mobilizes, starts activities, starts maybe scratching dirt, silt fence, you name it. Once those 25, 28 days are up, what we'll do is we'll put together a pay application process. That pay app process goes through, one, it's got to have the architect, most likely, more often than not, sign off on the pay app. So what we use is the AIA, American Institute of Architects, pay application process. The architect signs off on it. It also goes to the bank. Most banks and most loans, if not all of them, will have an inspector that's a third party hired by the bank. That inspector will take that pay application or draw at the end of the month. Maybe it slips into the first or couple days after that month. And the inspector will go out there to the site. They'll look at the actual completed work that's in place, underground, above ground, you name it. And then they'll validate that pay application process. So really the way to think about it is, in the commercial world, your general contractor has done work for about 4 weeks before they put the invoice in your possession for approval. Once you've got all the checks and signers, if you will, approving that check, then it goes out to the GC. Once the GC is funded, then the GC is now obligated, and always is, to pay their subcontractors and vendors. So let's say it's a $12 million project for simplicity's sake.
Little bitty one.
Little tiny one. That's small. First month, let's say they're all equal, is a $1 million draw. So that $1 million goes out to the GC. That general contractor now takes that $1 million that they just got funded, and they will go out and they'll pay off all the subcontractors and vendors. Anything that's, of course, left over as part of OH&P. We'll get into that in here in a little bit. Once the contractor pays for the subcontractors, then what we do is we acquire what we call lien waivers. We get waivers signed after every check that's been distributed to the subcontractors, and then we turn that back into the second pay application. So I go into that depth just to show where the risk is mitigated on the general contracting side. In the commercial world, is that general contractor has funded the money, then has to prove that they did pay the subcontractors with these lien waivers before they can apply for the second draw. Okay. So,
all right, that makes sense. And we're assuming that somebody listening to this, let's say a doctor or a business owner who wants to build a ground up 50,000 square foot warehouse, or a dermatology clinic, or both things that we've done many times, has even decided that they need a general contractor. We probably don't need to spend any time on this. At this level, no one's their own builder, right?
Correct.
I mean,
correct.
if you want to build a she shed in your backyard, you might be your own builder. But at this level, no one they're not, hey, I'm going to be my own builder, I'm going to need a GC.
Correct. Yeah, I'm sure lots have tried. I'm sure lots have failed. I'm sure maybe some got by with it. But
banks won't even allow it anymore, right?
Banks won't allow it. Most often than not, banks want to also qualify, depending on the type of project and how technical it is. If people's lives depend on it, banks want to also qualify that general contractor, make sure that they do have the expertise to actually build this. Where some folks could probably save a little bit here and there, they're increasing their risk by not understanding the professional side of it. If you do something that's not legal in the codes, you're in jeopardy if, God forbid, something happens. Insurance companies come back and they see that, one, you weren't qualified to do the work. Two, you put people's lives in jeopardy by not installing something properly, by not going through the proper channels.
God, you just made it dark real quick. Thanks.
Well, that's the reality of it.
But you're right. You got a lot of people looking over this thing. So you've got the municipalities and the state of Texas and the county and the banker, and you got a lot of eyes on a project like this. And we build a lot of technical stuff.
Absolutely.
So it's one thing to build a warehouse, which may not be technical in its, it may be a big tilt wall warehouse, but we're very experienced at surgery centers, and those are inspected by the state of Texas and the special permitting. And you're right, you don't want to make mistakes there. I don't think anybody watching this was going to try to be their own builder in a surgery center. So let me introduce a concept real quick, though, and let's talk about, there's probably a lot more than this, but maybe the design build versus, or design assist. We'll use those terms. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably, versus design bid build. In a very high level, what's the difference in a project that's not being bid out to multiple GCs and one that is being bid out to multiple GCs? What do those two look like?
What are the differences in those types of
projects? So if somebody said, well, I want 5 GCs to compete for my business, what does that look like versus, explain to them design build or design assist?
Yeah, good question. And again, it depends on the type of asset and product type, if you will. But the difference between a design build, design assist, and then a hard bid approach also is somewhat used pretty loosely. Back in the day, design build really meant that your general contractor and their team took 100% of the design, and they created the design with the assistance of the architects and then their internal MEP, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing subcontractors.
So it's a GC and an architect team.
Exactly.
Being hired in one
exactly.
swoop. And
it's where the architect is contracted directly to the general contractor.
Okay.
That's really the big deciding factor off the bat. Design assist is what we really appreciate, is where the GC and the architect early on, upfront, are both contracted to the owner. The general contractor then puts in a lot of their hard work, their hard-earned experience, I guess, throughout the years of existence, to help guide the architect, as well as the architect guides the GC, but they help guide each other through what we call a successful completion plan. What that really means is the architect now has a partner in this deal where they're just not designing something, from a scratch piece of paper, not understanding what the needs and wants are of the owner. So put yourself as the owner that's never done this before. They don't know how big a facility they really need. Truly, they don't know about how to plan for expansion. They don't know what type of walls they should have, what type of roof they should have, what materials are readily available, what materials are super expensive. So the architect, they know all about the design. They may not know the construction process per se as a GC. They need a partner to help them guide them through the right material selection, the right sizes.
A builder partner.
Exactly, a builder partner. So that builder partner really comes in and they'll also help outline the project budget and the project costs through the design process, not just after the design process is done. What we've seen in the horror stories that we've kind of been privy to after the fact that we've had to help fix, is when the architects or design team is asked to just design a project, that owner is not watching that cost control throughout the whole design process.
And there's not a GC in there to help police it.
Exactly. There's not a GC there to help police it. So what you're really doing is kind of setting yourself up for a budget buster. Once those designs are completed, you've gone through the permitting route, you're praying to God that it's going to come in budget. Then your GC or GCs take a look at it and it does come in over budget. Well, now you just lost all that time by having to go back and redesign, value engineer, wait for the permitting process to not expire,
Not to mention the cost of the redesign.
And the cost of the redesign. So time and money, of course, are best saved, if you will, when you team up with a general contractor, and this is going through the design process. So you're not losing that at the tail end of it.
So would it be safe to say, let me break it down to what you just said. I'm going to try to encapsulate. There's a word out there for this. I'm just going to skip that word. I'm going to summarize. A design build or a design assist, that general contractor is being hired up front.
Correct.
The clients come to us and they've said, we pick you. We've interviewed you. We've talked to you. We know your experience. You can do this. We want to hire you guys to do this project for us, but now you're going to get involved at the very start, work with the engineers, work with the architecture, the design team, and you're going to be the policeman. The budget policeman, making sure we're not picking materials that are on 11-month back order.
Exactly. Helping
design the project to a budget. And so when we start coming out of ground, let's say this is a ground up, start coming out of ground with this project, we know that general contractor's helped us probably redo the budget 4 times, 5 times, who knows how many.
Absolutely.
And pick materials that are cheaper than the ones architects, don't get me wrong, they're great, but they're also artists, right?
Absolutely.
So they want these things to be beautiful. They may not say, don't put that tile in there. It's $35 a square foot. We've got some, a tile that's $350 a foot that works. So versus somebody goes through that process, spends months and months and months in design, gets their plans ready. Then and only then do they start having general contractors bid those plans. The general contractor, from what you were saying, all they can do is bid that plan.
Absolutely.
They don't have the freedom to suggest or value engineer. It's bid that plan.
Absolutely.
And whether or not that plan was the most effective way to go.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point too. It's, once you go through the design bid phase, you picked up on a really key term there, is bid that plan. So when 4 or 5 or 6 GCs are bidding that same plan, no plan is perfect. You could have the most amazing architect. There will still be some items in there that need to be picked up in between. We call those scope gaps. So if you're going for the bid approach, you're going to get exactly what's on the plans. Some plans may leave out a critical component to the project that could create a lot of cost overruns, because when you're a hard bid GC and you're literally hard bidding this project against 4 or 5 other GCs, then you only are obligated to pick up what's on their drawings. Now, you don't want to be a bad partner GC and unethically bid something knowing that there's scope gaps in it. We typically, but it does happen. Absolutely. So that's where the risk increases for the owner, is there's no accountability for that general contractor to pick up a lot of the scope gaps that could have been picked up during the design assist phase, if you will.
And they could have missed those scope gaps on purpose. let's hope we're not talking about someone who's doing something unethical, but they could, or they could have just missed them accidentally. It's still going to come back to bite the owner, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You would hope that, there's no unethical general contractors out there that are going to put their hand up and say, hey, team, you guys left out a rooftop unit support system that's going to cost 15 or 20,000. Knowing that it was left out, they turned in their number. You would hope that wouldn't happen, but it does happen. We've heard a lot of horror stories. We've also been asked to take over a couple different projects here in the last couple of years, actually, where folks have left out. They cut themselves short. They weren't able to afford to finish the construction project.
Okay.
So they parted ways. We've come in, we've fixed it, so on. But that owner not only paid more, because in some aspects, they probably paid double in some categories, but they also excruciatingly went over their time slot, and then it's either lost rent, additional rent, lost revenue, you name it. But yeah, best approach that we see mitigates risk is the design assist approach.
So let me ask you then, that kind of begs the question. Let's summarize. Let's wrap this up on this question, and then we'll kind of summarize. There's so many of these topics that deserve almost their own video, right?
Absolutely. You go on for hours.
So much in depth. What project might a design bid build approach be appropriate for? Because it happens all the time. We do them. We do bid work. I'd say 60 or 70% of what we do is more that design build or design approach. But we do bid work.
We do.
As a GC. What projects do you think are more appropriate for that?
That's a good question. For the very seasoned and very experienced construction managers that work for these large organizations, they've done these office parks multiple times. They're replicating the same product type multiple times, but they have a staff of highly trained construction professionals that work for them. I could see that being a very valid pathway. Absolutely. For the first time, I'm putting my life savings into this deal. You want somebody as your partner watching your risk, mitigating that, and watching your funds in front of theirs. So, absolutely.
Yeah. I think about like maybe the national coffee chain, right? That they've got their own in-house real estate. They've got good project managers. They know this stuff. They could probably go out and bid these. A big industrial portfolio. It's got a project management team, and they know what they're doing. They have experts. They have those experts on their team looking out for their risk, looking out for the budget, looking out for the project timeline. I get that. But like you said, most of our clients in that $1 million to $30 million project range, and they maybe have done it once or twice before, and it's a ground up. So the other one that might be appropriate is a small finish out for a restaurant in a strip center.
Sure,
they've got their plans drawn. They go out and bid it to 4 contractors and hire someone to build their restaurant.
Absolutely,
probably not a lot of risk there, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, one key element that I think I left out was the time, during COVID, and actually just right after COVID, where we were still seeing these material shortages. One example, we have a project up in North Dallas called the Dutch Brothers Roasting Facility. We were the design assist general contractor that came in, and this is from an organization that has over 700 stores. Now we were building their industrial facility, not the stores. But they do have highly trained professionals, but they teamed up with us so that way we could expedite the schedule. We were able to get and release the structural steel package, the tilt wall package, you name it, some of these long lead items in shop drawings well before the drawings were finally designed. So we were able to phase that out.
Material.
Absolutely. Because they need to be roasting beans and selling those to the stores. We were their avenue to help expedite that schedule because we went through the design assist route. So time is also a big factor.
Yeah. So you love this business?
I do love this business.
Most of the time?
Most of the time. I wonder, I have an 8-year-old little boy, and I always wondered, do I want him to get in construction, or do I want him to get the heck out of construction? I love it. It's a passion of mine. It runs in my blood. It is a stressful industry, to say the least. There's a lot of grown adults that do not do the right thing that you have to rely on at certain capacities. But it is a great industry. When things go well, it's extremely rewarding. It's great to drive by a site and know that all the memories and stories of how it got there are standing right there in a 3D model, and it'll be there for a very, very long time. Now, unfortunately, as construction progresses, as the legal aspects progresses, the default rates and the deficiencies that happen, it makes the general contractor's life a lot more difficult, as well as the subcontractor. But yeah, excluding those thoughts, it's an amazing industry. Love being a part of it. Very blessed to be in it.
I agree. Well, you're a great business partner to have.
I appreciate it.
Keep teaching me, right?
Absolutely. Likewise, it goes both ways.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us, everybody. I think we may dive down into some of these topics in a future video, because even just that little conversation we had about design build and design assist versus design bid build, like we said, that alone could be an hour-long conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll dive down or drill down into some of these conversations a little bit more. But we appreciate you watching. Thanks so much for your time. Keep watching the videos. We're going to keep putting them up. If you like the content we're providing, let us know in the comments. Ask us questions. We'll try to look at the comments and get back to you folks. But thanks so much for being part of our show.
And click here. I always wanted to say that.
You're supposed to be pointing at something, right? Yeah. All right. Thanks, Charbel.